Hey everybody, welcome. I have some fun stuff planned today. We're going to be making this book from start to finish, at least the parts of getting the paper put in it. This is a book that's going to be the beginning of a project that I'm doing. It's called the 2019 Treasures and Gifts Galore. It's a challenge or an event or a junk along, whatever you want to call it, but it's fun is what it is. I hope you come along and join on in. So I have 3 books here and I have to decide which one I want to use. I like this big fat one. I liked it for a few different reasons. It's red, has red on it, which is one of the things that I wanted. It's big and I anticipate wanting to put lots of things in it. The only bad thing is when you pick out a book, you want to pick out one that kind of pulls apart from this back fabric area of your spine. This one does not. That means it's going to be a problem removing it from its spot, but we'll do it and you can see what that looks like. Here's another book I'll show you. This one, see how nicely that just comes off? I can even put my finger down in there. That you're going to be able to remove from your cover and spine easily, so that one's preferable. Okay, so let's first try this book and just see what happens. So what I want to do, I want to try to pull this off so you can tell it's just glued there. And I'm going to be taking my X-Acto knife, or this is just something that I got at the dollar store. It's like a box knife type thing, a little X-Acto knife. I'm going to try using that too just to see what it's like. And what you want to do, you want to cut through that paper without cutting through the fabric or the book area of the book. And so since this is glued, I'll see, look, already I've just ripped the spine. I don't think this one's even worth trying to get apart. I'll just do a little bit and see what happens more. But already, I mean, since I ripped that, already I've weakened my book. And see, look how this is just like, fighting me. You'll see the difference when I do the other one of how much easier, and you don't have the damage that occurs like this one is. Well, I don't know if I'm going to be even bothered to try to finish it. There we go. But see, you can see, look at that. All right, so there you saw it. Don't buy one that's tight and that it's glued right against the spine, because that's just going to be a waste of time. You can't use it. Now, all is not completely lost with this. Both of these boards are usable. So all I have to do is separate. That's not a straight cut, but you get the idea. And now I can use this board and this board still and make a book from it, and I just have to construct my spinal area. This book, it's about the size of my paper, but just a little bit bigger. And I can put my finger in there. See how I can do that? So I'm going to just gingerly come down and cut just close to the book and without cutting through my spine. I'm going to cut a little bit of this side to also give a release. It's so easy to have your blade sticking out too far and to cut into an area you don't want to be cutting. So that's starting to separate nicely. So now I'm going to go this side a little bit more. So if I hold this out, I can see where I'm getting stuck on this one, and I can look down my spine and see where I'm getting. So I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to start working from this other side now. Once again, just pulling out my spine. I've got that pocket area in the back. I'm loosening it up, and I'm going to go right along the edge and cut that apart. Being careful not to cut into the actual area that I'm saving and wanting to work with. See, it's releasing on the inside. Now those two areas have met, and at this point I can even come from this side and go along the paper edge to make sure I'm not cutting in. My book block is out, and there I've got pages ready to go. So the size of your spine is really going to determine the size of your book. I really wanted something bigger, but I think this will be okay. I'm going to go with that. But the reality is the spine is much smaller than what I want. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to cut this out and I'm going to create my own spine. So, oh, there you go. A lot easier. I don't even have to cut it. So I'm getting rid of this part and we're going to construct our own, because if I'm running into this right now, it just occurred to me a lot of you guys might be running into the exact same problem. And really, you want to make a book the size that you want. So I've got this. I'm going to measure how high my book is. The height of the book is 9 1/4. I'll write that here, because this is a graph paper, and I'll put a link to it down below. This is a graph paper that quilters use, but we're going to use it for our binding. I want to make my spine 2 inches wide. You can cut it out with your cutting board, or you can just cut it with your scissors, because this is just going to be your template that you're going to hold up to the other pieces. So actually my template is a little bit short, so what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to have to add on to it. Right to there. Alright, gonna line that up right there, and it doesn't have to be perfect, because this is actually going to be covered up with paper too. Your spine is still going to be hidden. It's going to be a hidden spine. Okay. I want to start out at the 1 inch part so that I can see how they match up. So that goes just about to a 1 inch line. So there's a line right there that goes to, and so I'm going to cut at that line, and I'm going to use that to measure. So what I'm going to do for the signatures, I've got my pen and I'm going to mark it. I want my signature to be an inch down. 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be an inch right there, and that's the middle. And at 1 inch, 1, 2, 3, 4. So for a 2 inch spine, I want to go in a 1/4 inch. A 1/4 inch, that's 1 block, and then do a half, and then do a half, and then do a 1/4. So that the initial one, middle one doesn't matter right there. So back down here, I want to do a 1/4 inch. I'll move 2 blocks to make it a 1/2 inch. I'm ignoring the middle one because I'm doing 4 signatures. Go another 1/2 inch. 1, 2. That's right there. And then have a 1/4 inch. So it's kind of like that. So the ones that I don't want, I just did an X through. So then what I want to do, I want to find the middle of my paper. I'm just going to do an old-fashioned way and fold it in half. There's the middle. For the middle, I'm going to go to the far left, to the far right. So I've got 1/4 inch on each side. Then I'm going to go 2 blocks in, and I'm going to go 1, 2 blocks in. So now I have my signature all spread out. That's my template for my signature. For my signature, what I'm going to use is, well, this is black paper. I mean, it's a black spine. So I might do black in the back. You know, it doesn't really matter though, because I'm going to cover it up. So I'm going to do a file folder so you can see it. With the file folder, I'm going to make, this is a double one. I want to thicken it up. But as you could see when we ripped it apart, your back paper is really loose. It's not like it's just some big, thick piece of honkin' wood. So I'm not concerned about it being really heavy, but I need it heavy enough that it is going to hold my book. So this is a double piece. I'm going to use that, and then I'm going to do another piece that I'm going to glue it onto, but this is going to be my initial piece that I'm making it from. I'm going to put this over my, whoops, I got to cut it to the size of the book. And I believe that was 9 1/4, but I'm just going to make a mark there. Let's see what it ends up at. 9 1/4. Exact. Okay, so I have my 9 1/4. I'm going to place this over the top of it, and I'm going to put it over a soft surface, which would be like one of the books that was just gutted. Let me move this out. Kind of clean up the busy area so it's just not so overwhelming. So I'm going to place this over the top of it. I'm just going to put something, you can use a paper clip, you can just use whatever to keep it secure. And I'm going to take an awl, a pokey tool, whatever you have. You don't want it to be too fat of a tip because you don't want a huge hole. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take it and I'm going to poke through the holes that I want to keep. Not the middle one that I initially did. That was just a gauge to find the location. Okay, I've got those holes punched. I'm going to the middle section and I'm going to poke those holes just enough so that my needle can go through. And I'm poking the bottom holes. So you want to decide which point is going to be your top. This one's going to be my top. So I'm going to write top on it so I can just tell, because there might be a slight variation of where my hole has actually been poked. So if I keep this in the same direction, it'll work better. You'll see later when I get going on my signatures. So what I want to do with this, I want to take some glue and strengthen this by gluing this together. Let me see. I haven't used this glue for a little while. A pokey tool is good for more than one thing. So this is a good strong glue, and so it's going to stiffen up this back and just secure it a little bit more. So we'll get that going and hold that. So now what we have, we've got our two boards, which I need to clean up a little bit. It doesn't have to be at the moment, but we've got our two boards. They're going to go together. There's going to be like maybe a 1/4 inch distance, between an 1/8 of an inch and a 1/4 inch. A lot of people do it the width of their Tim Holtz ruler. They'll put the ruler in here and then they'll close in that space. In any event, this is going to go there. We're going to make another one exactly like this that we're going to be actually sewing our piece onto. So grab your paper again and cut out a 2-inch strip, 2 of them. And in my case, my book is 9 1/2 inches, and so I'm going to cut that out. Excuse me, not 9 1/2, 9 1/4. There we go. Now once again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put my template on top of it. I'm going to secure it so that I don't mess up where it's where the holes are going into, and I'm going to poke holes through it. And then I'm going to glue it together. And while it's drying, I'm going to start putting the signatures together. Yeah, I should do a bead along the edge. A lot of this glue comes out, but if I don't have it along the edge, it's not going to do me any good. Okay, get these nice and lined up. And I can take my little tool and just make sure it's perfect. Okay, so I'm going to let both of those dry. And I should tell you, when you're making a book like this, there are so many different techniques and different ways and different materials that you can use. This is just one of them. This is just one way that you can do it, and you can do it many, many other ways, and it'll be just as perfect and wonderful, and it's good. Okay, here's some paper that I made, and I did want to show you something. It was interesting. So I was using one paper, and then I switched over to another paper. The paper that you use just makes such a difference on the color that it turns out. Both of these are white papers. But you can see this one has more of a gray tone underneath of it right from the get-go. Here's the two papers before they were dyed, and see that? And so even after it dyes, then it retains that gray color. So anyway, it's just something you want to keep in mind as you are making it. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to use it all and enjoy it all and love it all. So I have 4 different designs in my little paper palette here that I'm going to mix up between the signatures. With the signatures for this one, you want to have at least 2 pieces of paper in there. And the reason I say 2 is because then you would have enough to represent every day of the week for the month of December. You can certainly do more. It'd be wonderful with more, but you need to have at least that. And also, depending on the size of your book and how much you want to add to it. Like if you're not going to add very much embellishments to it, I would say go ahead and add more paper. If you think you're going to add a lot of embellishment, it's going to thicken it up a lot, I would probably stay at a lower amount. I'm going to add more than 2 pieces, but I'm not going to go crazy with it because I know how I work, and I end up embellishing it a lot, and it increases the size. This is something different I did today. Just thought I'd show you. It's a new dyeing thing that I did. So I'm going to put that as my first page of the book. So you're going to take your paper and you're going to fold it in half. So the size of your paper is going to depend on the size of your book. My book that I have going on here is actually larger. Okay, my paper is actually larger than the size of my book. I don't mind that. I mean, my book is actually larger than the size of my paper. I'm going to line it up with, okay, so like, let's say if you were reading it, I'm going to line it up towards the bottom at a normal point for the book, which is going to leave a space here so when I have tabs and things going over the edge, I'll have protection of it being still within inside the book. And I also have room that I can add things at the top and they won't get destroyed. They'll be protected by the book. So it's not a bad thing to have a book a little bit bigger. So if yours is, don't worry about it. Call it a benefit. So my book is bigger than my pages. If yours is smaller than your pages, you want to cut down your paper to the size that will fit your book. So the size that you want to cut it down to depends really on what you want. But let me grab a book. Let's say if you were to use this one. This is a old dictionary just got, 1911. So let's say if you're going to use this one, clearly it sticks out beyond what the size of the book is. If you look at your cover, you can even see they go down like an 1/8 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, and maybe an 1/8 of an inch. So you can do that. You can go down 1/4 inch, or if let's say you want to allow more room for things to stick out, you can go ahead and allow that. So it's really what your preference is, but to be honest, if you want to cut it the exact same size of the book, you really, I mean, why not? You can do that too. It's your book. So there you go. But you do, I would suggest, want to make it smaller than, you don't want it larger than the outside of your book. For this project anyway. Could be a creative thing. Okay. So I'm going to make 4 signatures, and so I'm just going to start by folding up four pages so that I know what I'm doing. Okay. I'm going to put these to the side. Those are drying. And this is the front one. These are the other ones. Okay, so then the next page, I'm going to do something like this one. And then I think I want the next page to be another plain one. And then I want the next page to be this other pattern. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 pages. With the 4 pages, I have the option too of, like the middle pages, I can glue them together and they would essentially be one page. I can make an envelope out of that or something. So even though you have 4 pages, it doesn't mean that you have to use all those pages as they are. So that's that. So for your signatures, you want to cut out a piece of colored paper, craft paper, that's going to be the cover of each of your signatures. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I kept mine kind of basic, the patterns that I picked, but you can pick whatever you want. It's supposed to kind of represent the wrapping paper. I'm going to use one of the paper pads that I got at Michael's. This is one of their hot buys. So it was only $6, which is like, you can't beat that. So I'm going to pick out 4 pages and I'm going to cut it the exact same size as my signature size. So my signature size is 8.5 by 11. So I'm going to, my paper size. So I'm going to also cut this 8.5 by 11. So let's do that. Oh, this is cute. Okay, so I have my signatures here, the covers. I'm going to decide on what order I want them to go in. You want to keep in mind what color of paper you're going to have in the inside of your book. So, like this one, I ended up having a dark paper, so that was a nice little contrast with it. So just think about what you want to have there when you make your decision which ones go first. Also, just pick what you like, right? I think I'm going to do the houses. Then I will do the bells, polka dots, and the stripes. Okay. Once I've got that, now I'm going to put my signatures in them. And you want to save all these leftover pieces because you will use those pieces in your book. So this is what I've decided I want my signature to look like. So I'm going to fill each of these up with one of these. And what one of these consists of is a piece of regular paper. And I can make all my signatures the same so I don't have to stress over it and worry over it. Then next I want to put a doily. Here's a doily. For the doily, all I'm going to do is just fold it in half. I'm going to place it there. So I've got a plain piece, a doily. I have a polka dot piece. I'm going to grab that, put it next. I've got the ledger paper. So let me grab a piece of the ledger paper and I'll show you what I did with that. Since the paper is actually longer than my book page, what I did was I folded it up so that it would be shorter or the same distance. In this case, it ended up being shorter. And then I folded in half. So now I have an immediate pocket right there. I can either glue it or I can sew it. So that's going to go there. Then I have another piece of paper there. Then I have my sparkly tulle next. I'm going to lay that, and I can cut that shorter at any time. Then, excuse me, I had a regular piece of paper. Put some of this in there. This I just got at the dollar store. It's parchment paper. I just cut off a section of it. I fold it in half. I don't have to use the entire portion of it. I can actually cut it in half, but I can make this into a pocket or do something fancy with it too. So what I like to do is just trim off those rough edges and then place it in the middle. And then the last piece would be this one that goes in. Goes in right there. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So since I did more papers too, like if you did the 4 pages, which I said you need to do at least the 4, it would be like this. You'd have page day 1, 2, day 3, 4, day 5, 6, and then day 7, and then you would have the extra page you can use however. When you have the extra pages like I have going on, when you turn the first one, you can have like the 2 pages day 1 and 2 pages day 2. So it just depends on you and how you want to use the book. So you don't have to put as many pages as I'm putting in. You certainly can. You can do the minimum amount like this. But with the wider book that we're making right now, this size is actually probably better. Okay, so then that's going to go tucked in the next one. So I've got 2 done now. And then I just keep on doing that with the next signatures. Okay, now I have all my signatures stuffed, put together in their paper, and so it's at this point that you want to take them and you want to do any sewing that you want to do before we actually hand sew them into the base of it. So maybe you want to sew along the edge, maybe you want to sew along a pocket, whatever you want to do, you want to go and do that sewing at this point right now and then come on back.